Hello, welcome to the Truer podcast. I am your host and holistic intuition teacher, Katrina Slade, and I am here with a very important question for you. Are you forcing or are you flowing? Are you forcing or are you flowing? What does that bring up for you when I say that? Because I know me in my life, I've been going through a big life pivot. And I know other people are too, especially because we just finished, at the time of this recording, we just finished the spring eclipse season. There were eclipses, two eclipses in February and March. And that brings up a lot of divine redirection. There's this word, divine redirection. And it's funny because this came up in a conversation with my VA. Hi, Angeline. um, she was using that terminology, which is interesting because I love that word, divine redirection. I've used that before too. And of course, that's the idea of like there's a higher intelligence that's guiding you on a path that's more aligned for what your soul needs or what your soul wants, for your highest soul growth, for your highest outcomes in this life versus the path you were on. You're redirected from the path that's maybe your ego wants, or you think that's going to be it for you. Maybe it's just like ingrained programming of, oh, this is what I have to do. And you're redirected to a new path. So forcing would be like clinging on to the old path or the old energies that you don't necessarily want to let go of because there's probably a fear of the unknown, a fear of what's new. You don't know how it's going to turn out. It's natural to be a little afraid of, I feel like I'm stepping off of a cliff. Where is it going to guide me to? Where am I going to land? But there's this idea of flowing. And that's what I want to talk about. So let me share an example from my life. So after I moved here, if you haven't heard, in my last episode, I talked a lot about my dream relocation and I gave a little life update after 6 months of living here. The first few months, I was like full steam ahead. I was like hitting the ground running after a very exhausting time, a very exhausting year leading up to moving, getting our house ready for sale, getting rid of a ton of our belongings, driving across the entire country, coast to coast, across Canada, which is a huge landmass, and then finding our new housing, which we hadn't found until we arrived, and then settling in. That was a huge effort, but I still hit the ground running once I arrived because I really was eager to start this new era of my impact, my business. I wanted to meet people locally. I felt really called to do more things in person, which I hadn't been doing a lot of in New Brunswick before I moved. And I realized after a while, I was so exhausted because I never gave myself enough time to recover. And in fact, I just got worse and worse because, December comes and I'm super busy with everything and all of these other demands from like, the holidays are added onto my plate. And I just really needed a break. And I started to rethink, wait, my whole plan for I had a plan to start my membership. In fact, I was already talking about it. You might have heard me talk about the Truer School of Holistic Intuition. And I was just going to restart my membership that I had put on pause before I moved, kind of rebranded it with that new name. And I was really full steam ahead with that plan until I started to realize that's just going to perpetuate the same feeling of being burned out. Do I really want that? I had to rethink my whole business structure, my whole plan. And I had to really pause. There's this idea of the sacred pause, which I've talked about before on the podcast. By the way, that's a really good episode to watch if you're, or listen to, if you're kind of in this phase right now. So you might want to go back to a previous episode called something sacred pause, puts in the title. And there's, once you pause, you're able to receive more guidance, like guidance from your soul, really, when you're living this intuitive life and you're able to connect. You're really able to be redirected. So I suddenly felt like I had to pivot away from the thing I had already started promoting. And my little Virgo mind was not happy about that because I'm a perfectionist. Virgos are perfectionists. I have a lot of Virgo energy, by the way. And I didn't like the fact that it was not perfect and I wasn't following the plan, but I allowed myself to redirect. And then I've been guided to similar things, but a different format of how I want to deliver my teaching. And I feel so much better about that. I think I'm going to start creating group programs, maybe like 6-week programs, and, support people in those ways throughout the year. So we'll see. We'll see how it evolves. But that's what I feel is more aligned. I can be more of a teacher, which I know I am. I can be more present instead of having this constant, never ending demand for me to show up. I can speak from experience. When you get that inner calling of like, whoa, I need to pause or I need to pivot, or when something happens externally that causes a redirection, this divine redirection, that's like, no, you cannot continue on this path. You must transfer to the other path. That can happen in so many ways, right? Like you get let go from your job, somebody breaks up with you. For me, it's oftentimes like an inner feeling, but I'm just like, ooh, all of a sudden I'm feeling this and I can't let it go. It's such a strong inner feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain these things. This is just living in alignment with your intuition, like your intuition is guiding you. It's hard to put words to that. But when you're able to be open to the redirection, that's the flowing instead of are you in force or are you in flow? Forcing would be me continuing down the path just because I was like, no, I already planned for this. I'm going to pursue that goal no matter what. There's this idea of achieving goals or achievement that is very celebrated and almost like idolized in this culture. But what if that goal is not right for you? What if that goal was planted in your mind by the ego who just wants validation or who just wants things to stay in your comfort zone instead of, oh, but this path, the redirected path, is going to guide me to my soul's highest outcomes, my soul's highest path. So I can allow that. This is more of an allowing. This is how why sacred pause is a good idea, to kind of pause on things, let things give yourself time to sense and to feel and to be guided. And then you can just see, where am I being guided to? What feels right for me? And really take time. Ask yourself, what feels right for me? And really take time to sit with that. And it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks. For me, I actually took all of February to pause on those plans. I still did other work, but I paused on those plans and I allowed myself time to sit with it and to receive. So I was receiving learning. I signed up for this course that I really wanted to learn this content. And I was learning and learning and learning. As I was learning, I was getting inspired. Oh, I can do it this way. Oh, I can try it this way. Oh, this is more lighting me up than the old way that I was so forcing, at the beginning. So, are you in flow or are you in force? And you'll probably know which one you're in. just from this conversation. The wonderful thing about flow is it's the feminine path. And this is not just for female identifying people, women. The feminine path is being open to receive and being open to being guided. And I've guided this in, meditations and with certain clients. It's almost like you're floating down this river of life and you can call in the highest outcomes, calling in the right opportunities, the right people, calling in the right situations, the right inspirations, the right experiences. And when you do that, it's like you're releasing your grip on the steering wheel that you might have been white knuckling earlier, releasing your grip and saying, okay, I don't know. I'm not the smartest intelligence in the universe. I'm going to call in higher intelligence. I'm going to call in the guidance from my divine team or God or source or the universe. There's so many ways that whatever one resonates with you, but you can call in and say, I'm open to be guided and see. Because whenever I do that, I've been practicing this idea of spiritual surrender for years now. Whenever I do that, it's like something new comes up, like a new inspiration, a new idea, or a new opportunity. I think I'll just share this here. Recently, I've been practicing this intentionally in like evening rituals, evening meditations. I don't know what to call them. And I was specifically focusing on my business and like calling in the right opportunities. And honestly, within 3 days, I had 4 invitations to collaborate. 2 of them were from different people to come to their retreats and, facilitate some healing experiences for their guests. And they were both at the same lodge. So, like different dates, different people, but I was invited to the same lodge in 2 different situations. And I didn't have to go seek that out. They just dropped into my lap. I also shared recently on my social media that my husband has been doing this with me, and the exact opportunity he was manifesting, he was calling in, dropped into his lap. Now, I don't mean this as in a closed way, like, oh, I'm only manifesting this one thing. He was open to being, he's a comedian, so he was open to being invited to perform at a show, comedy show. And like me, he just arrived here less than half a year ago, and he's still making his connections in the comedy world. So he was manifesting, I'm open to calling in the right invitations. And boom, after about 5 or 6 times of doing this, he got an invitation. And it was perfect. It was pretty amazing. People have been asking me about that, so I think I'm going to make a whole episode about that, about the method that we use. Are you interested in that? Do you want to learn that method? I would love to know if there's more interest because I'd be happy to share. So, going back to this idea of flow is a feminine approach, and actually, that helps you to be more in alignment, more in attunement with the flow of life, with the intelligence of your life, the higher intelligence that's guiding you. And that leads you to highest outcomes. If you hold that intention intentionally. Whereas if you just have one outcome in mind, like for example, I'm going to reopen my membership, I'm going to launch it, I'm going to advertise it, I'm going to get people to sign up. Well, that didn't feel good for me anymore. So why would I keep pursuing that? That would be forcing, right? The forcing method. Why do I keep saying method? The forcing route or the flowing route? Are you forcing or are you flowing? Forcing feels more restrictive and like clenching, and flowing feels more open and moving, right? It feels different, doesn't it? I have another story about this. I hope my VA doesn't mind, but I was just talking to her in our meeting recently. She has this goal of going to medical school. And she told me a little update on her situation. And it's funny because she used the words divine redirection because she thought or she had hoped that she would get one outcome. But that outcome didn't quite happen. It means she can't really qualify for the exact university she wants to qualify for, but she qualifies for other universities. And the opportunity just came into her life of somebody offering to pay for her fees for the medical school. So the one medical school she wanted to get into was free, I guess, because it's like a state school or something. It would have been free. She wouldn't have had medical school fees, tuition. That's why she wanted it. But when that option was closed, she suddenly got this new opportunity of somebody offering to pay for the fees for the other school. So again, she wouldn't be like the outcome is similar, right? She still doesn't have to pay fees. And she called it a divine redirection. And I loved that because it's this like miracle. She was open to see what's the highest outcome. And now I wonder how this applies to your life. Are you forcing or are you flowing? Are you gripping on to a goal, even if it's outdated, even if it doesn't feel good for you anymore? Or are you open to this divine redirection or this pivot that so many of us are experiencing because of these lunar eclipses, or these eclipses, I should say? There's a solar and a lunar eclipse. These create karmic changes in our lives. It's like things that are no longer aligned get cleared away, whether we like it or not. And there is a divine redirection. Some of us feel it more than others because of all these, situations with our personal birth chart and the transits and how it's affecting our birth chart. But I'm betting that you have felt that in some way in your life recently. So, how can you be more open to flowing and being open to the guidance and the support of higher intelligence, of God, of source, of the divine? Because that's going to lead you along this new path that you've been redirected to, right? I'm actually really excited for you. I'm feeling this like excited feeling for you because I think this is going to guide you somewhere really amazing and really exciting. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do a card reading on my YouTube channel as a follow-up to this. And I'm going to ask guidance for how to become more in the flow. What do we need to better be in the flow? To be open to receive what we do need for our divine redirection. If that interests you, find that video on my YouTube and I'll see you later.
One more thing. I just want to tell you I love you and I'm proud of you for doing the inner work, for showing up, and for choosing a truer life. If this episode resonated with you, if it helped you access a deeper truth within yourself, then please share it with someone you love, because the world needs more of us living our truer lives. This has been a Truer Media production. The Truer podcast is created and produced by me, Katrina Slade. Music by Frequently Asked Music. Wordmark by Annika Samples of Incandescent Creative. Cover photography by Lucinda Richard. Time for the really short legal talk. This podcast is presented solely for educational purposes. I am your soul sister. I am a spiritual guide, but I am not a licensed physician, psychologist, or other qualified medical professional. I hope to see you again.